Okay, so back where I left off. See, the thing about making this game and the fact that some of this is just kind of boring to watch is because I am vlogging everything, and I'm not. Um, I set a. I'm gonna do a video a day, except for Sundays, which I'll probably stream playing some adventure games, and I'll stream that for a little while. So I'll have a video every day. But other than that, I don't plan these videos. I'm not planning. I'm not making videos. I'm not really editing them. Uh, and this is not meant to be planned. I'm working on my game, and I'm recording while I am working on the game. So half of this talking that I'm doing is what I would normally do if I wasn't recording. I would be thinking about it in my head, and I would sometimes I pace back and forth. Sometimes I write stuff down. Sometimes I look stuff up. So this is just kind of a groundwork kind of thing. So, you know, pretty soon, you will see. Um, you'll see me actually working on animation. I've already shown a little bit of what I was doing. In fact, in the next couple of videos, next few videos after I talk about the story, I'll probably start up Grease Pencil and Blender 2.8 and see if I can't just do some sketching, just kind of get back in the mood for sketching, and and I'll start doing that, and I'll think about working on my UI. A lot of this stuff I'll have to actually create. The cool part um, about Armory is that they have these things called traits, which object traits. Basically, while there's probably a couple of other traits, the two main ones that I look at are the a script trait, or a node tree trait. And basically, all that means is I program in the hex programming language uh, related to my object. I can do it that way, or I can do non-programming and do it nodes, which I kind of showed in another video. But basically, they have these deals, and you connect the nodes up, and they do stuff. And, it has the logic, so it's kind of a visual programming without actually typing in stuff. The only bad part, from what I understand, is that you can't switch them off and on the fly, because what happens is with the node thing, it actually generates hexy code or hex code for, I don't know, somebody said called it hacks, I think. Um, I guess I could call it hacks, because if I say hex code, you're thinking hexadecimal, but hacks. So if so it generates hex code, and then you could open it up and modify it, but once you go back into the node editor, it's going to probably restore, from what I understand. Which means it's not that flexible. So I have to decide: do I want to do programming, or do I want to do visual programming? And I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't care for programming that much. Let's see it here. I don't care for programming that much. I do it because I can't get anybody to program for me unless I have money, and I'm not going to make any money unless I make a game. So I'm not going to make a game unless I code, and it's sort of like it's basically a cycle. But that being said, I know Haxi a bit. I can code in it. Um, and the node thing might be easier. It might not be. So I might have to just decide to. I don't know. If I want to learn Blender, I'll use the node thing because I'm trying to learn Blender. I'm not trying to learn coding, even though I said I want to learn and get good at stuff. Maybe I could find a way of dividing it between doing the node stuff for certain things and doing the scripting programming thing for certain things. Maybe I'll ask in like Discord or something, or IRC or whatever. So maybe I'll do that. Okay, so where were we? Trying to decide whether or not I can do the game in parts, in actual parts, and still have it feel satisfying when you get done with it. To know that you are... I suppose there's got to be a goal, like an end goal, right? To a particular part, or to a particular game. There is a freeware AGS adventure game called The Apprentice. It was Apprentice Night, and I believe there were like 3 parts, and basically they were literally 3 parts of one story, and that actually worked fine, even though you didn't actually get to the end, to the actual end. So it still could work if I did it in such a way where I'd have to see. The thing is it's not just a cliffhanger. I'd have to actually reveal a important part of the plot at the end of each game. So let's think about this for a second. I could do that. Say I was going to have like 5 to 7 parts. Now, actually 7 parts, I can't really determine how long it's going to be, but I can intend to do 7 parts. So if we did 7 parts, how would that be? That would be 2 parts on the end and 3 parts in the middle. Is that how that would work? But you're still, your midpoint is still your midpoint. So in the 3-act structure, it'd be like 4 games, right? Or more. But all I'm saying is 4 games or 8 games, right? Because you want to put those plot points. So you have inciting incident. You have inciting incident. You have plot point 1. You have midpoint. You have plot point 2. You have climax. That's a thought. That's 5, right? Inciting incident. It leads up to plot point 1. Okay, so, but what you're talking about there is your midpoint in your middle game kind of doesn't work, because I don't have to make it like all even symmetrical and all that, but if your big major reveal is in the middle of in the middle of the middle game, you don't have a... How does that work, though? If I have inciting incident, plot point 1, but see, that would make the inciting incident at the end of the first game, and that might not be very fun, right? So you actually have the inciting incident in the middle. How would you make it to where you felt satisfied when you got done? You didn't feel like, oh, I just got cut off, and, when I watched Alita Battle Angel, which is a new movie based on a Japanese manga, directed by Robert Rodriguez and co-written by James Cameron, Titanic and Aliens and, Avatar, right? Basically, I felt unsatisfied at the end because of what happened. I won't really give spoilers, but basically, because it was such a big... It was a cliffhanger. It was a proper cliffhanger. So, I didn't feel very satisfied. I still liked the movie, but I didn't feel very satisfied. So you kind of want to feel satisfied. I don't know. Maybe I could do. I always just think that these weird, the even numbers are like kind of weird. Like if I did four games, 4 books, right? And I just made sure that the end. And that's another thing, and that is we have. Well, if I still think about the 5 parts, let's see the 5 parts. Let's say the inciting incident does not have to be. It's not going to be at the end. It's going to be more towards the middle. Plot point 1 is going to be towards the end of the first part. Okay, so plot point 1 is the end of the first game. Midpoint is the end of the second game. Plot point 2 is the end of the third game. And climax is the end of the fourth game. See, still somehow. If I made the inciting incident, see, the inciting incident is not really a plot point, so you're still just setting stuff up. Actually, what I could do if I went back to my old idea of halfway being the main thing, so basically where you start in Enchanted Lands and you're introducing these characters, then I could have the inciting incident, which is no, because of the way I said that. The first plot point is when he brings in John, comes into Enchanted Lands. That's your first plot point. Okay, and your inciting incident has got to be something else. The inciting incident thing that puts it over. Maybe I can show. Maybe we can start with Enchanted Lands being okay, and over the course of that first game, that kind of makes it like. That kind of makes it work how I want it to work. So maybe it won't be exactly the way a 3-act screenplay structure goes or 3-act narrative goes, and which is fine because it's still a game. So what happens is we show what happens to Enchanted Lands. We show, and this is through the course of. This is what Harold experiences. So the first game will be from Harold's deal, and we'll see it. In fact, I'll have individual inciting incident, plot points, and all that in the first game. It'll be its own thing, but at the same time, it'll be the thing that sets this whole thing in motion. So basically, we see the schools close up. We see the dwarves become greedy. We see Max come in. We introduce all of the characters, right, in that first dealie. And even though it's not the actual first plot point, the first plot point is when Harold halfway brings John in. And we can also show John at the start also. In fact, each of their stories can kind of be separate at first until we intertwine them into the story. That's actually not a bad idea. So your actual inciting incident kind of thing, the thing that sets it in motion, actually happens towards the end because it's essentially the problem setup. So the problem happens, right? And Halfway has got to do something about what he needs to solve the problem. Okay, so I should actually write this down. This is part of the actual deal here. Okay, so five chapters. Do I want to do 5 chapters, or do I want to do parts? Well, if we're gonna say book, we're gonna say chapters. Okay, so 5 chapters. The end of each chapter is a plot point. So, chapter 1, inciting incident. Okay. Chapter 2, plot point 1. Chapter 3, midpoint. Chapter 4, plot point 2. And chapter 5, climax. So basically, at the end of the 5th part, the 5th chapter, the ending of the game, right? And then the way we handle this is, right, we introduce the characters, we set up the problem. Okay, so introduce characters, set up problem with the inciting incident. Okay. Plot point 1, which is a turning point. Now we're getting to plot point 1, and which is Harold bringing him. Okay, so that's another thing, right? Which is, I'll just say it here. John Thomas enters Enchanted lands. And somehow he is still going to be in the first game, and he's also going to be in the second game. But the actual plot point, the actual point where he enters the story, or where he, not the story, it's the same story, but where he enters Enchanted Lands, that's going to be at the end of the second game, see? Midpoint is a big turning point. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for that just yet. Or actually, I don't know what I'm going to do for midpoint or plot point 2. The midpoint is actually when they discover. It's when John and Halfway discover that Maximilian's is none other than the previously banished sorcerer Maximilian Spell. Okay. So we kind of discover that at the end, and actually, when you're playing the game, you're going to already know that. Okay, so hit 20 minutes again. I keep on trying not to do that because it's too long, because people will be going, well, it's too long, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to stop, and I'm going to start a new recording here in a minute or two. And maybe we can get to plot point 2 and the climax here.